Tapu, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Haru Nefer. This is Kasakma Keparu with another video for you. In this video, I want to talk about how you can win at the game of life. But before I do that, I want you to hit the like button on this video. And if this is your first time to my channel, welcome. Please hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live or upload new videos. And also, we have some free ebooks that you could download now and start reading. And they cover the esoteric, the new age, and all good spiritual stuff. So just go to the links below, start downloading them. Lastly, consider becoming a Patreon supporter. You can do so for as little as $1 or $5 per month. You can cancel at any time, and you'll get exclusive access to instructional videos that'll teach you how to be a diviner, to do divination, working with oracles, how to perform a ritual, proper breathing techniques, Egyptian Kemetic culture, and the works. So support us on Patreon. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about using your inner power, your magic, to have a successful life. And I want to use my life as a case study because the early portion of my life, I got my butt kicked by life. It was a shit show. You know, I had a lot of problems. Me and my brother, we came from a very abusive family household. And that left scars on both of us. And it was very difficult for us to acclimate to society. And this is why I got into spiritual culture. But I was luckily born or reincarnated into this existence with a memory from my past existence. So I knew that I existed in ancient Kemet, in ancient Egypt. I knew I was a priest back then. I knew I was Benjamin Banneker, the famous inventor. So I knew I would continue these things in this lifetime. But I first had to work on self and to rise at a certain level to where I could overcome certain things and then help others do the same thing. So I began to study early part of, I got studies into hypnosis to NLP, and then I started branching and getting really deep into Kemetic culture and spirituality, and then started studying with Japanese masters of black magic and all other types of esoteric things. And a lot of it paid off, and a lot of it confirmed some of the notions or the premise I had prior, because there were certain innate things that I knew that would make me successful. And I want to actually, well, kind of translate that into something that's workable for you, because I'm always refining a technique of reality manifestation. And it's not like something's written in stone and that's it. I'm constantly saying, how can I make this better? How can I provide you with something that's not only easy to digest, but it's simple to use, because I know that we all live a very busy and complicated lifestyle. So I don't want to give you something that's going to involve a blood sacrifice or getting involved in a sex orgy. You know, you don't want to do that. I've been there, done that. It's not the coolest thing as it seems. Okay. Anyway, and you know, my 13 wives can attest to that. And the product of that is our 36 kids. So anyway, so I'm going to give you some techniques to help you manifest things in your life very quickly, and to basically refine the techniques that I've talked about in previous videos. But I'm going to get into some deep, dark stuff, but don't be, two things. Number one, don't get caught up in the terminology. It may sound complicated, it may sound deep, ooh, but it's not. Don't get caught up in that. And the second thing is, yes, I'm going to talk about some dark subject matters, but always stay positive. One thing I never do on my channel is I never focus on what you see some of these other channels do, which is all about conspiracy theory. Because if you focus on that, you will create that world for you. You will create a world where the Illuminati has control over you. This is why I don't talk too much about them in depth. I do mention them in passing or as an overarching control mechanism, but I don't get into deep details of deciphering, you know, their meanings and getting into how they put together their organization and get the history of all that. Because when you focus on something, it expands, and when it expands, you create that reality. And I don't want you guys creating a reality where the Illuminati has such power over you. And whether you realize or not, we all exist in our own reality tunnel. We do not exist in the same reality, and we do not exist in the same time-space continuum. In fact, I talked about this. You exist in a different timeline than I do. This is called time dilation. We don't exist in the same time. We don't. You may exist in the past. I may exist in the future. It's not by much, but there is a difference. And science has proven this because they had people in planes flying overhead, people on Earth, and they looked at the world clock, atomic clock, and they saw that the time was different. There's a difference in timing there. And also time is an illusion. Time is not real. It's a construct. So anyway, I'm going too far off. All right. So I'm going to get into some terms that may, throw you for a loop. Don't worry about it. All right. Now, one of the things I want to talk to you about is whether you realize it or not, I want to accept it. You're being watched. Okay. There is an intelligence, a consciousness that is observing you. And you may not be aware of it, but it is observing you. Everything that you do, from the time that you get up in the morning, take a shower, get on the toilet, go to work, it is observing you. And the ancient Kemetic people knew this, and they kind of codified this in their Metu Neta or hieroglyphics as the all-seeing eye, or the eye of Haru, or the Uchat. And then you'll see modern Western society has adapted it to mean you'll see like CBS has the eye, and you'll see a lot of the motion picture companies and television companies, they use that eye symbology as part of their iconography or their corporate symbol. So, which is basically the Illuminati alluding to the fact that you are being watched. Now, who is this that is watching you? Now, there's a couple of things I can go off on, but I don't want to do that right now. For brevity's sake, I just want to focus narrowly on the most important thing that you need to understand. There is an entity on this planet, which through a lot of research, myself and other individuals who have bigger PhD degrees than myself, have coined this a precognitive sentient intelligence. Sentient intelligence. So basically, what does this mean? Precognitive, that it's independent, it's aware, it's thinking, it's a sentient intelligence, it's independent, it's acting, and it's observing you. Now, this being, or whatever this is, we can say is benevolent or malevolent. I say I lean toward malevolent. That is a separate issue. That is something else that we can detail in another video. In fact, I shouldn't even touch on that because I get too deep and I don't want YouTube shutting me down. But what you need to understand is there's something else that's watching you. And this something else that's watching you is responsible for your success or failure in life. Now, the Egyptians called it conditioning. NLP, or let's say Scientology, will call it a pattern. See, when you are indulging in an emotion over and over and over again, you are creating a pendulum, an ergobor, or a spirit. That emotion, depending on how powerful it is, can take on an intelligence or be sentient and act independent of you. This is the basis of occult practice. You can create a spirit and send that spirit out there on a mission to do something. And this is what the ruling elite has done. They've created a spirit, a precognitive sentient intelligence, to go out there and to wreak havoc and cause things what we call racism. You can call this a virus, a pendulum, or ergobor, or a topa. Now, when you're indulging over and over again in an emotion, whether good or bad, the more power you give it, the more energy you give it, the more powerful it becomes, and then it gets to a point where it becomes self-aware. And then if you don't consciously tell it what to do, it'll start doing things on its own. Do you understand where I'm going at with this? You live your daily life not realizing that you are Osir. The indwelling intelligence is Osir that dwells within you. Our ancient Kemetic people knew this. Neville Goddard said in his speeches and lectures that the imagination is God, it's Christ. And that if you imagine something, you are using Christ's power, or God's power, to manifest. And he was absolutely right. The Egyptians said, when you imagine something and you empower that emotion, you are giving rise to Osir, the indwelling intelligence. Same thing as what Neville Goddard said as a Christian. And I don't care if he says he's not a Christian, he is a Christian because he's always citing from scripture. When we say Osir, the indwelling intelligence, rising within you, the resurrected one. Neville Goddard, in his teachings, is saying the same thing. He is saying that the intelligence within you is Christ. The imagination that you use to manifest the reality around you is Christ. The power that you use to manifest reality is Osir. The same thing. There's no difference. Now, let me get a little bit deeper into this, all right? Now, what is watching you is yourself, the self. There's two divisions to who you are. There is the person, and then there's the self. The self is who you truly are, and then there's the person, okay? But let me clarify this. Whatever it is you want in life, if you don't learn to nurture, which is Oset, cultivate your power within you, then you allow it to run havoc in your life. Meaning that if you don't monitor the self-talk, and the imagination, which are the power, self-talk is Sebek, the imagination is Hedaru, trance state is Oset. If you are not working that power, it's going to work and go on autopilot for you. And what it will do is it will start to manifest things in your life, and it's not discerning. It's going to manifest good and bad things. Whatever it is, you're giving visualization to and emotions. Let me give you case in point. I remember I had flew to New York, and prior to coming to New York, I was preoccupied with this notion of being in handcuffs. And it just kept running in my mind, and I had a very emotional attachment to it. And the reason being is because I saw a movie, and the movie had a scene like that, and I really liked the scene. If I see a scene in a movie I like, I'll replay it over and over in my head. And there was something about that scene that resonated with me. And I kept playing it over and over again. And I said, you know what? I have to stop this because I'm going to end up in handcuffs. I know it. I'm walking downtown Manhattan, and I have this guy jump out in front of me and says, I just saw you make a drug deal. I said, what are you talking about? He pulls out a badge. Then he throws me against the wall, and he handcuffs me. And he says that I made a drug deal, and he wants to frisk me. I said, well, go ahead and frisk me. Now, understand what I'm about to tell you here, because this gets deep. He frisked me so I had no drug or any drug paraphernalia on me. I never did drugs in my entire life. But anyway, no, I never did drugs. So he looks at me and he apologizes and shakes my hand. I could have been upset, really upset over racial profiling. This cop, it was unnecessary for him to put me against the wall and handcuff me in front of everybody. But you know what I knew? I said, this situation is Maya. It's not real. I manifested this because I knew I kept playing over and over in my head, me being in handcuffs. And the power within me just manifested what I was dwelling upon. So as God man, I accepted responsibility for that situation and accountability for it. I didn't blame the officers because I knew the officers were not real. They were avatars. This scenario was not real. I had just manifested something. Not many years later, I bought a sports car, right? So I was riding in the car, and actually I had two cars. One car I actually crashed. That's another story. And then I got the sports car. But with both cars, I kept thinking to myself, I'm going to get pulled over by the police. I'm going to get pulled over by the police. And the reason why I was having that nervous reaction and thought process, because I kept watching these movies about these young Black men getting pulled over by police and all the terrible things that happened. So in my mind, I was replaying this scenario over my head. And my 16 wives had to remind me. They said, Kasank, you are very powerful in terms of the reality that you generate. You have to be very careful about what you imagine because it tends to manifest fairly quickly. And I say, oh, darn it, you're right. You're right. You're right. So what's happening? I'm in a sports car. I'm not speeding, too afraid to do that. And then I'm riding. I'm actually like really at a nice pace to get to the set. And what happens? The police pull me over. I'm like, for no reason. So the officer comes over, and it just turned out something simple as I was getting a custom license plate. I didn't have a license plate on the back. It was on order, but I had a temporary one, which was pasted on my front window, and he didn't see it. So when he saw it, he was like, "Oh." So then we had a discussion about what type of car I had. He liked the car, and it made me very late because he still had to check out my paperwork. Made me very late to the set, right? So when I got to the set, they had started, shooting and everything, and they were like, "Well, why were you late?" I said, "I got pulled over." Was I angry? Absolutely not. Because I said to myself, I manifested that situation. Because I know I am a reality generating machine. I know how powerful I am because I'm a Pisces. Pisces are very creative and have a very active imagination. Plus, I was born under the auspices of a Ma'at. So I'm going to have issues with being righteous. So I have to be very clear on, staying to the law. That's Ma'at. Now, people go through their lives and they want to blame things, external world, blame this, blame that, blame that, blame this. But you are the blame because there's no one that exists in this reality but yourself. And the power within you is so powerful that when you visualize it and attach an emotion to it, you give it life, it manifests. Now, here's the key. The watcher, that which is watching you is your conditions, is your consciousness is watching. And it's manifesting what you have a strong emotional attachment to. Okay? Now, I've said this before. All of you should understand this. But here's the key. Some of you may say, well, Kasank, I imagine me having a harem of women or men, or me having $1 million, and it doesn't come to fruition. Why? This is what you have to understand. This is the deal breaker, okay? You got a pen? You're gonna take it down? You're gonna take notes? All right. You have to have a real strong emotion tied to it. But not only that, because many of us in the New Age movement, in the occult community, we do sit there, we do meditate, and we do attach emotions to it so that it can manifest. But that's not it. The emotion has to be authentic. It cannot be synthetic. It cannot be manufactured. It is the difference between having an orgasm and pretending to have an orgasm. The intelligence within you knows the difference. You can visualize something all you want. And put an emotion behind it. But if that emotion is not authentic, is not fresh, it's not real, it'll never come to pass. It is like if I tell you right now, I want you to imagine eating a red apple. I want you to imagine biting into that apple. It's very crisp, very fresh, very sweet, very tasty. Can you imagine that? Okay, great. Now, that's the form of a trance I put you in. The next thing is, I want you to imagine you sucking on a lemon, a sour, bitter lemon, and you're sucking on it. Now, right away, your lips are starting to contract and you're having this visualization of this lemon, which tastes awful. Examine that in comparison to the apple. Which emotion is more authentic? It's the lemon. That's the difference. When you're doing your visualization, you have to have an authentic feeling behind the visualization. Then it will manifest. But there's another component to it, which is the break period, and I'll get into that. Some people will imagine something and tie an emotion around it until they play that scenario so many times until the emotion becomes cold. It becomes inauthentic and it doesn't work anymore. So therefore, it's not going to happen. You have to be creative enough and emotionally involved, being more right-brained than left-brained, to where every time you visualize what you want, you have an orgasm behind it. Because the orgasm, the sexual excitement, is the Kundalini Ra Chi force, the Ka, the Ka. I'm sorry, the ki, sorry, ki, K-I. The ka is spirit, they're different. The K-I, Japanese. You have to have that behind it. If that energy is not there, it won't manifest. See, the spirit knows what you truly want because your emotion betrays you. Your emotion will either tell it, this is real, this is really what I want, I must have this, manifest this, and then your spirit goes to work and manifests it. But if the emotion is cold, it's indifferent, it's stale, or it's here today, gone tomorrow, and the spirit won't do anything with it. Many people are saying, well, can you hit the lottery? Can you manifest the right numbers to hit the lottery? Yes. Do you know that frequency? Do you know that emotion, an authentic emotion of actually winning the lottery? Can you duplicate that feeling of winning $10 million? How would you feel from a very authentic, to the core of your being feeling? If you can duplicate that emotion and keep it going for a number of days, whether it be 28 days, 60 days, 90 days, then you're on track. The problem is, for those of us who are able to resurrect or invoke that authentic emotion, we have a hard time keeping it. So what do when the emotion becomes stale and the visualization becomes stale? You change it up then. You change it up. I want a house. I walk into that house, right? And I go right to the bedroom. And I see me and my mate there. I said, let's make love in this bedroom right now. But after 5 times of doing that, it becomes stale. So what do? Well, then I imagine going into the kitchen and making my favorite meal and seeing myself eating that, keeping the emotion alive and well for that house. What happens after that? Then the house may have a movie theater in it. I'm going to envision myself going into the movie theater, watching my favorite film, 2001: A Space Odyssey. And that's an authentic feeling, an emotion, being excited about it. And I'm going to replay that scenario until it becomes stale. When that scenario is stale, what's next? Well, then I'm going to visualize that it has a gym, a workout room. I'm going to go there and work out and look damn good, as I always do. But anyway, I digress. So do you understand that the emotion has to be fresh, has to be authentic, and you have to keep it going? If it's stale, then you will never manifest that which you desire. I always say that obsession leads to possession. And for those of us who become so obsessed over something that we want it more than anything in the world, that's actually a good feeling, because that means that no matter how many times you're playing that scenario, that visualization in your mind, it's always going to be a fresh, authentic emotion because you're so obsessed with it. Sooner or later, you will possess it. You will have it. Obsession is all too, in the Egyptian and African tradition, about possession. Because when you become obsessed by something, you become possessed by that spirit of that thing. And what is that exactly? Then you become to vibrate in alignment with the frequency of the thing you desire, and you shift to a parallel world where you can interact with it and where you can have it. Going back to this precognitive sensing intelligence, you are watching yourself. You are the watcher. You are observing yourself, because there's 2 individual pieces to you. There's the self and the person. Now you can experience watching yourself through astral projection. There are herbs that I take, and these herbs shock my system to separate my person from myself. So I am able to experience the self. I am able to experience the person as 2 different separate individuals. And it's a wonderful feeling, because then you know for certain that there's the individualization up to who you are, and you get in touch with that real aspect of who you are. Now, this thing that's watching you, which is you, is going to be responsible for your success in life. Because if As the I Ching, the 50th hexagram says, the cauldron, what's in the cauldron? But before anything can be placed in the cauldron, you have to first turn it upside down and empty all the junk that's in the cauldron. That means your psyche, your mind, all the junk that's in there that you've accumulated from social engineering, from subliminal programming, you got to get rid of that and bring new ideas about who you are and what you can do. So I understand that my life is dictated by another aspect of myself that is watching me, that is manifesting things that have a strong emotional attachment to them, whether good or bad. So therefore, in African traditions, you would give offerings to the spirit. You don't have to do that. All you've got to do is understand, monitor the self-talk, how you talk to yourself. I am wealthy. Not I want to be wealthy. I am wealthy. I am successful. And then visualize the things that you want and go dark to those things that are negative and that could possibly do you harm. I never visualize negative outcomes. I never consider those things as a possibility. The only thing that I ever consider is success. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's no possibility of failure. It's only success. Failure is not an option. When you have learned to go dark to that aspect, you do not feed the person. Therefore, it doesn't have a conditioning. It doesn't have a pattern. So it cannot manifest. It cannot manifest those things. It can only manifest the positive things which you dwell upon daily. And this calls for being disciplined. Waking up in the morning, understanding the first 30 minutes is how you program your spirit, and then thinking about only a positive day, thinking about only the things that you want in your life, then meditating for an hour a day on the thing that you want, which is having your life go the way that you want it to go. When your world is about this, about learning to manipulate the spirit, the indwelling intelligence within you, then you will be success. Success is not an external thing. It is you. You are success. I used to teach acting, and I say to actors that you have to talk in terms of a state of being, not in terms of mimicking or portraying a role. You are the role. You are the person. There's no portraying. There's no mimicking. There's no acting. There's only being. When you start understanding this advanced science, then life will start to open up for you. But those of us who have negative ideas and very negative people, or we have anxieties about, well, this could happen, that could happen. Well, it will, because you are a reality generating machine, and it's going to happen eventually, because you're going to keep manifesting and playing that scenario out in your mind, and you're telling your spirit to bring this into being, and it will. And then you're going to go, whoa, woe is me. Why does the world treat me so poorly? Why does these things happen to me? You have to get to a point, if you're going to accept these teachings, if you're going to accept the fact that you're God man, God woman, you have to accept the fact that whatever happens in your life is a direct result of your power. No other way. No other way. So I don't gripe, I don't bitch about things that happen to my life. If something happens that doesn't go according to my plan, then I take a look at myself and say, what is it that I believed that made this manifest? Because I always trace it back to a belief system that I was harboring. And those belief systems, they hide in the deepest recesses of your mind, man. They'll hide there, and then they'll pop out at you, and we'll call them negative situations or scenarios or events in our lives. So when it happens, think about the belief systems that you have. And then that's a time to now take audit of those beliefs and start to ferret them out and say, okay, time to go. I'm replacing you. I'm giving you your pink slip or your walking papers. Just like the people in your life are a reflection of your persona or who you are. They're really manifestations of different aspects of your personality. That's all they are. They're not real. The objects and things that you see all around you are just symbols, manifestations of the ideas that you have inside of you. When I was learning from the Chinese sage, he said, "What is that in front of you?" I said, "That's a door." He goes, "No, that's not a door." He says, "That's your belief system for entry and exit. It is symbolic of how you come in and out of life." And he kept going on. He took that to a very deep and profound level. He said, "It is the gateway for your success. It's a symbol of the next level, of going through the next level. It's not a door. It's more than that." And I was like, damn, that's deep. If you believe it's a door, then you subscribe to concrete thinking, because now you limit what you really are and what it really is. Just like in the Matrix, the young sage said, "There's no spoon there. And if there's no spoon, you can't bend it because it doesn't exist." Your mate starts arguing with you. Find out, well, what new belief system have you adapted to start having that conflict? You cannot blame things in your life. You cannot blame people in your life. Stop doing that. Start to look inward. If I have a situation that doesn't go my way with a person, whether it be a business associate, whether it be a friend, a relative, I am not getting into an argument with you. There will be no argument. Let me ask you a question. How foolish do you look arguing to yourself? Can you imagine you walking down the street, talking to yourself and arguing with yourself? People would think you're crazy, right? And you would think you're crazy, right? Then if you're going to argue with your avatars, your aunt, your uncle, your mate, your sister, your brother, they're not real. So you're in essence arguing with yourself. Same thing. So stop arguing with yourself. Instead, sit down and meditate and see you and that individual acting harmoniously according to the guise of the goddess Heharu. She's the goddess of harmony and love and joy and friendship and socialization. Recite her mantra, cling, cling, and watch your relationship change with that individual. My mate comes and starts yelling at me for not doing dishes. I go, cling, 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 and the situation changes. Okay? I'm being facetious. But anyway, you get the point. Alan Davis, Hetepu. Wilder, Namaste. Shana, Hetepu. D-Ron, Battle. Namaste. Taylor, Namaste. Glad you are able to join. Now, I've given you the basis of how you're going to now shape your reality and have a more successful life. One of the things is the weight factor. When you are having this scenario play in your head, you're empowering with emotion, you're going to have to let it go. It's called freedom from outcome. You cannot invest too much into it. You cannot say, this is the end all and be all. If I don't get this, I shall never be happy. You can't do that. But you still have to want the thing of your desire. You still have to reach for it. You got to reach for it, but don't make it the prerequisite for your happiness in life. That's the trick. Because Heharu tells us that joy is in the journey and not the destination. Many people, millionaires, billionaires, poor people, have lost everything in their lives making the attainment of their goal their happiness. And when they attained the goal, they found that it wasn't really the source of their happiness. And it wasn't really all that it cracked up to be. If I can just be serious for one moment, a lot of guys out there fantasize about having more than one wife. And I tell them that it's not what you think it is. It's not the fantasy that you have in your mind. There's a lot of responsibility that comes along with that. And any relationship, I don't care what it is, you have to work at it, because you come together with your mate to spiritually evolve. You may think it's different. You may think it's because, oh, he's sexy, she's fine, but you come together with that person to help each of you reach your destiny, your incarnation objective, your life destiny. Going back to what we're talking about is winning the lottery. If you can find that authentic emotion for what it feels like to win $10 million, then run with that. Envision yourself filling out that lottery slip and winning, and replay that sucker in your head over and over and over again, and be happy and be elated every time you win. See yourself accepting the check and giving me a piece of that too, by the way. But remember, many people have failed because the emotion was not authentic, or it got stale after a while. Keep it fresh and don't give up. It will manifest. Because you, as God man, God woman, whatever you command, has to manifest. That is your law, your ma'at law that you put in place. And nothing can violate that, because you are the highest of the high. You are the top dog. You are God. There's nothing above you. And if there is, that's news to me. You know what I'm saying? Now, you may not remember that you're God, but you are. You wiped your memory clean so you can have an authentic experience. You see, you said to yourself, I have infinite power. I have infinite intelligence, but I have no experience because I am alone. So you individuated yourself. You created individual objects so that you can interact with and therefore gain the experience. But then you realize something else, that you could live forever. You can't die. So you said to yourself, this is stale, because the experience now is not authentic. I have done everything, and I know what's going to happen. I know how everything is going to unfold. So what do? I know. I'll wipe my memory clean so I can't remember anything. And therefore, it will be fresh every time. It'll be authentic. It'll be a real emotion. It'll be a real experience every time. So you erased your emotion. You erased your memory. So that every life would be authentic. And every emotion that you experience in that lifetime would be authentic. That's what you did. And don't ever doubt that. That's what happened. Western science doesn't want to tell you that. You see, they don't want you to know how powerful you are, because then it would be a game changer. You see, you would relinquish them. You would pull them down from their throne, from their seat of power, and say, you are not the real king. You are not the real queen. I am. Get off that throne. See, they fool the world into thinking they're powerful because they've learned to manipulate you and limit your thinking. But once you allow Osir within you to rise again, you become conscious. Or you get back to who you were, which was consciousness. This is Kasank Ma Keperu, son of Ma and Tuti. My aunt is the beautiful goddess Heteru. Until my next video, Amun Ra.